harm's way. We
that feedback, or I'm just like hooked up to something else? Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, you guys are taking it like champs. I said, you guys are taking it like champs. I was like,
Oh, the woo.
A second ago, there was one really bad one.
Yeah, there was a really bad one a second ago. Uh-huh.
What's up, nation? My name, of course, Philip Defranco.
I got patriotic goosebumps.
And honestly, I wish our candidates would start talking about things that actually matter.
Sup, Nation? It is day 2 of the Democratic National Convention, and we are live in Charlotte. As always, I'm Philip Defranco, and next to me are Meg Turney and Elliott Morgan.
Yay!
So, one day to go after today. How do you feel?
Tired.
Oh, excited.
I took a bunch of melatonin last night, which is like usually my best friend. And all I did was like I took my normal dose and I quadrupled it. Like
That's not big.
And then I just like my body revolted and I sat awake until 3 a.m. It was horrible, but I'm good now. I'm good.
Listen,
they make coffee, which is really important.
Dramamine is always your friend.
Dramamine? Okay.
Dramamine is the way to go.
What pharmaceuticals do you like?
I'm
Phil?
not an addict, I promise.
No, I'm a melatonin guy myself.
Oh, it's
but
good
I thought it
stuff.
was cute that you said you quadrupled it, but you took like 2.
Yeah.
So that means that you literally
I
split your
usually
pills.
take a sliver.
I think
yeah.
Elliott really likes to like feel like he's breaking it up a little bit, get the razor going.
I feel like
really
snort
cutting
it.
edge. Oh no,
Snorting
that's
it
the
is
best
the biggest
way.
thing.
No,
I
that
don't
is
know.
the best way to take
I
it.
say, ultimate decision, if you use a credit card to break a tablet, you're too involved with your medication. Or you actually need
You
medication.
have superhuman strength to use a credit card to break a pill.
I am
feel.
superhuman. Fact.
You're welcome.
But we're going to move back to that because last night we had the first speeches of the week. Some were great, some were boring, and some needed fact-checking. We're going to jump into that in a second, and right after I give you today's question of the day for The Nation Speaks, which is, what did you think of last night's speeches? If you didn't see them, we're going to talk about it here in a second. If you did see them, start tweeting us. Tweet us using the hashtag PDSLive, and we may read yours on the show, argue, say nice things, though. Mainly to me. I don't know. I think that would be nice. Tonight's schedule, though, is packed. We have Nancy Pelosi, the Democratic House Leader, Sandra Fluke, women's rights activist, and former President Bill Clinton will be our final speaker of the night. But right now, we're going to talk about last night's speeches, starting with San Antonio Mayor Julian Castro.
My grandmother didn't live to see us begin our lives in public service, but she probably would have thought it extraordinary that just 2 generations after she arrived in San Antonio, one grandson would be the mayor. Mitt Romney, quite simply, doesn't get it. A few months ago, he visited a university in Ohio and gave students there a little entrepreneurial advice. Start a business, he said. But how? Borrow money if you have to from your parents, he told them. Gee, why didn't I think of that? Romney-Ryan budget doesn't just cut public education, cut Medicare, cut transportation, and cut job training. It doesn't just pummel the middle class, it dismantles it. It dismantles what generations before have built to ensure that everybody can enter and stay in the middle class. America stood on the brink of a depression. Despite incredible odds and united Republican opposition, our president took action. And now, we've seen 4.5 million new jobs. He knows better than anyone that there's more hard work to do. America will prevail. It begins with re-electing Barack Obama. It begins with you. It begins now. Que Dios los bendiga. May God bless you. And may God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
So Julian Castro was generally loved. Some people said it wasn't as good as Obama's speech in 2004 because people have been saying he's going to be the next Barack Obama. I thought that he played very well as far as trying to alienate Mitt Romney, talking about, borrow money, so it's kind of playing the rich guy card. But, Elliott, what'd you think of this speech? Official response.
I liked it. I think he basically took the Democratic platform and he took it and he made it into a really good speech. I thought it was very good. I read some stuff saying that he smiled too much, which I thought was kind of a funny. They were like, makes him look young. It makes him look like he's a novice to all this. Which whatever. I think he can smile a lot and I think it's cool. But yeah, at the end of the day, I don't think he said a whole lot. The part I did like was when he was talking about his upbringing and all that. I thought that was really cool. It cut to his grandma and all that. That was really cool. He seems like a good guy. I didn't think he was saying anything that was super profound.
Yeah. All right, Meg.
I like the speech. Generally, his cadence does remind me a lot of President Obama, the way he enunciates. So I felt like he did a good job.
Yeah.
He is young. Mm-hmm. So and
37,
especially for his realm of politics, I
think
assume
so. I'm just
guessing. He is young. I do know that, but I want to talk about his adorable daughter because I'm ready to vote for her in 2036.
I kept
whenever
seeing
she saw herself on the jumbotron and did like the hair flip. I thought it was great. I thought his speech was great. I really liked the that he called out Romney for asking people to borrow from their parents, because that is kind of a silly thing to tell people to do. Like, people would have thought of that if they could do that. But I thought it was great. It wasn't amazing, but I thought it was great.
Yeah, and there were a few fact-checking things. I mean, during his speech, he did make a point that the Romney-Ryan plan... actually, just watch this.
It's a choice between a nation that slashes funding for our schools and guts Pell Grants, or a nation that invests more in education.
Now, nothing I think that Romney or Ryan has said is, we're going to gut it, or we're going to cut it. I know that they're keeping the max, they are going to tighten restrictions, but to say gut, it did seem kind of misleading, at least in my opinion. And then there was also the part of the job creation, saying that Barack Obama created 4.5 million new jobs, which could be argued, but...
4.5 million jobs in the private sector.
And was it just in the private sector?
Yeah, I believe that is the statistic
I don't know if it's...
out.
Okay, I'm not sure if it's just private.
Yeah.
I don't think it is, no.
Maybe not.
But
hearing him out here that I'm very wrong.
But the thing is, it was 2 million jobs lost in the first 2 years, and then you do see a recovery. People are debating whether the numbers are in fact correct.
Right. I mean, I know it was 800,000 jobs or something like that we were losing every month. There was some crazy number, and now we're coming back a little bit. I think that it's one of those stats that if you're on the right, you can play with it as a certain way and make it seem a certain way, and if you're on the left, you can play with the stats and make them, you know what I mean? If you take
you can make
facts
everything,
and cherry pick.
Perception.
Yeah, I think I'm figuring out like the formula for a political convention speech is like you tell a personal story, you connect with the audience, and then you talk about how evil the other side is. It's pretty simple.
I mean, I feel like that's pretty much it. Yeah.
But, no, I mean, I think that is true, because we don't have, I think, O'Malley's speech. I might be wrong, but O'Malley goes up there, and he says a bunch of stuff, but all that I walked away with was the thing he repeated 25 times, which was, forward, not back. Like,
okay, cool.
Yeah, like if you played a drinking game, you would have died. Just dead. Done. Wait, do you have new stats or no?
Got a lot of
don't have new
tweets.
stats. I don't know. But does it make you think anything different as far as potential misleading?
Potentially misleading? No, I think it's this. I feel like it was the same message that we get. Like, I don't know. I really wanted to hear something like, and maybe we will in the coming evenings. But like, I wanted to hear something crazy. But I don't hear that. I hear the exact same thing wrapped up. Like, basically, it's the same message that the Democrats always say, which is if there's a problem, the government can fix it. Like, there's opportunity. You have to invest in opportunity, and that translates to spending as much money as possible. He didn't go into the fact that we don't have any money to spend. He just says we should invest in opportunity, which is great. But if there's no money there, how do you do it?
I get it. I get what you're saying. But so that is it for Julian Castro. Next, we have Army veteran and congressional candidate Tammy Duckworth. She spoke a lot about her experience as an Army Black Hawk pilot, and along with praising the end of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, she also went after Mitt Romney in her speech. Here's a quote.
When it comes to our men and women in harm's way, we have a clear choice on November 6th. Last week, Mitt Romney had a chance to show his support for the brave men and women he's seeking to command. But he chose to criticize President Obama instead of even uttering the word Afghanistan. Barack Obama will never ignore our troops. He will fight for them. That's why he is my choice on November 6th.
Not much to say. It was universally loved, and how could you not? She gave part of her body for this country. She's a hero. You can't. I don't think it could be argued. Meg, you started off. You think?
I love the speech. I thought it was very stirring. I talk later in the show today about Veterans Affairs and how important they are. And actually, Tom Tarantino, who I talked to from the IAVA, stated that he doesn't think either party is doing enough. So I thought it was interesting that she said Barack Obama will absolutely fight for us. And obviously, you're not going to diss Barack Obama at the Democratic National Convention, but I do think there are veterans who feel like they're not doing enough on either side, and so we'll delve into that for sure later tonight. But I did think it was very stirring, very moving. It's hard not to be moved by watching her walk on stage. Is such a moving picture that it's hard not to be moved by that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, I feel like anytime someone like that starts speaking and you see what they've been through, I mean, what can you can't say anything to it. I mean, it's awesome. So. Yeah,
it's like all you can say is thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. Exactly. I think. But and last night we also had Illinois Governor Pat Quinn, who attacked Romney's record as governor of Massachusetts.
Mitt Romney promised Massachusetts three things: more jobs, less debt, smaller government. Then he left his state 47th out of 50 states in job growth. He added $2.6 billion in debt. And on his watch, government jobs grew 6 times faster than private sector jobs. What does Romney promise today? More jobs, less debt, smaller government. But he didn't do it then, and he won't do it now.
So more, I felt like Pat Quinn was probably more on the attack than anyone else last night. He's also been questioned on his facts that he used, specifically that Romney left Massachusetts 47th out of 50 for job growth when, in fact, it was 28. But also both sides are arguing whether it was actually his responsibility or his success. Meg.
Meg again.
What do you think about it?
Again, I think it's another one of those stats you can very easily cherry pick, and I hate when the Democrats do it. I slam the Republicans for doing it, and I'll slam the Democrats for doing it as well. I think there's no room for misinformation. You have a billion people to check your facts, and you only screw your own party and your own argument when you say things that aren't true. They make you not. If you said 10 things that were true and then you said one thing that was false, I'm liable to question all 11 things because one of them is false. So I mean, dislike that.
Yeah, I mean, and also I was reading here just fact checker sites were loving Pat Quinn last night because he said government jobs grew 6 times faster than private sector jobs under Romney. That they didn't even say that was misleading. They were just like, no, that's wrong. That just
that's
not.
The thing that bothers me. People obviously, like the internet, loves to call me a liberal and that I will do anything they say and that I'm their workhorse, but that is shitty, and you shouldn't do that as a politician. It screws all of us in the end. I think.
Elliot?
Yeah, about that. So he says, like, what is it? Mitt Romney says he's for small government, but then government jobs. First of all, even if that's true, does that even, like, make sense? Is he even proving the point that he's trying to prove? Like that, okay, it's like apples and oranges. Okay, so jobs in a particular area statistically or exponentially grew faster than jobs in another area. It doesn't necessarily mean that the government, like, grew that size in and of itself. Like, I feel like if you're going to mislead with facts, even you should at least make sure that your point gets across, and I didn't think it did.
I agree, and I think that Romney Care is really the point to stick it to Romney on. He constantly throws Obamacare under the bus, but he was one of the first people in his state. He was the first governor to pass something that is very close to Obamacare in his state. So stick it to him where it really counts and where he really did flip-flop.
I think that my favorite thing out of Pat Quinn is if you're going to lie, Elliot, make sure you get your point across.
Yes. At least make it count.
Don't
What's
lie.
the point of lying then? And finally, nation, the headliner of the night, the one we stayed up to watch, First Lady Michelle Obama.
Every day, the people I meet inspire me. Every day they make me proud. Every day they remind me how blessed we are to live in the greatest nation on earth. You see, even back then, when Barack was a senator and a presidential candidate, to me, he was still the guy who picked me up for our dates in a car that was so rusted out. I could actually see the pavement going by in a hole in the passenger side door. And when my brother and I finally made it to college, nearly all of our tuition came from student loans and grants, but my dad still had to pay a tiny portion of that tuition himself. You see, for my dad, that's what it meant to be a man. We want to give all of our children a foundation for their dreams and opportunities worthy of their promise. If we want to give them that sense of limitless possibility, that belief that here in America, there is always something better out there if you're willing to work for it, then we must work like never before. Thank you. God bless you. God bless America.
My only word, I got teary-eyed watching it last night, and I was like, damn you, Michelle, damn you. Because there was really not anything to be fact-checked. It was more of the emotional side, and I think as far as the emotional side, she did go into facts, and we'll jump into that in a bit, but I loved it. I just straight up loved it.
She
Meg?
killed it.
Yeah.
She took it home. She killed it. Even when she does this thing, and it was a little bit in the highlight reel, and like she stutters, and it makes me feel like it's like she's so impassioned she can't get the words out. Like she's amazing. She has obviously done a lot of practice, and she is fantastic.
She sits in front of the mirror and she's like,
No, but I just mean like even when you think she's messing up,
Yeah.
like it plays to her strength.
No, but I mean, even you talking about it right now, you're like, rah! Like,
I know.
I mean, I feel like as far as what she did, she definitely re-energized a base.
Yeah,
I
for
think.
sure.
I think a lot of people were looking forward to it. Even I saw Republicans like, wow, that was a hell of a speech. You still had people that were like, I'm not going to watch it, but you had that when Ann Romney was talking the other night with Democrats. In comparison, Elliott, which was better?
Oh, Ann Romney versus Michelle? For real? Totally Michelle.
Oh, you Democrat?
Well, and I'm totally
I'm
Democrat
just
now.
messing with you. I just wanted to...
Yeah, no, she also looked really pretty.
Yeah.
Pretty lady.
Killed it. No, I think she was fantastic, and I think that actually somebody tweeted they would love to see them debate Michelle and Ann. I would pay so much money to see that happen.
I would
That
pay
be
them to see them work out together.
amazing. Again, I would pay money to see that happen too.
Or arm wrestle.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Or do
She's
curls.
Amazing.
Bench presses.
What else?
Leg lifts.
Leg lifts.
And just all sorts of cardio.
Yeah, I think the thing that really hit it home for me, I mean, obviously she talked about the family, but when she started talking about her dad and like what a real man was, and it obviously goes past the family. That goes into what an American is, right? I think that it was someone that I'm going to paraphrase / echo a point that a real man steps up, does his job, and if he does succeed, that he doesn't close the door on his way on his way up.
I love that point, and I love that she slipped in social issues too. You should be able to marry who you want to marry in this country,
Right.
and that she did head off the idea that Democrats are always accused of wanting to hand everything out for free, and no one should have to work for it. And she said several times, when you work hard,
Right.
then you get the opportunities.
I feel like there's points like during both of these conventions, especially when it comes to these speeches, because again, they are kind of formulaic. So for the most part, you can watch them and like, it's all about America for the most part. So I think it's okay to like get excited about somebody like Michelle Obama because she's talking about like her family. Like that's awesome. Like I don't care what her stances are. If she's not talking about her stances, if she starts talking about her stances, that's another thing. But as far as her talking about her family, it's great. It's like everyone can connect to it.
Yeah, and then we also had Michelle didn't go too political, but here's where she did.
So when it comes to rebuilding our economy, Barack is thinking about folks like my dad and like his grandmother. He's thinking about the pride that comes from a hard day's work. That's why he signed the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act to help women get equal pay for equal work.
So once again, women, and it's a fun contrast between Michelle and Ann Romney because, and I hope I'm not taking the quote out of context when Ann Romney was saying it's hard for women. But it was like something like, we don't mind, or, we don't, it was something like that. Yeah, and I was like, it's kind of empowering, but, yeah, once again, I hate, it feels like an unfair fight, and I shouldn't be comparing them. But actually, something that we talked about last week, you said, Meg, that you could relate to Michelle Obama. Mm-hmm. I said that I couldn't. I think last night I kind of could, especially when she talked about family struggle and coming from someone that didn't have to someone that did. Elliott, has your opinion changed as far as if you could relate?
Yeah, I mean, I related with her during her speech. I feel like when you start talking about the Lilly Ledbetter, I don't know, I sort of like, there comes a point, and it happens with both the Republican and the Democratic, where I kind of check out because I'm like, okay, this is the part where I get it. All right, let's
play it on my emotions.
Exactly. Yeah. I see what you did there. But I found her more relatable. She's certainly more relatable than Ann Romney. She just is better at that. Like
she's also had more experience.
Totally, yeah. And it's just certain people are better at connecting with other individuals.
Yeah. Cool. So, Nation, that was... The DNC has been pushing Obama as the right choice for our country to move forward, and both sides have made claims about what the president would do if he had a second term. So go through and slice through that. Here's SourceFed breaking down Obama's political stances.
Barack Obama, the current president of the United States and current presidential candidate for the 2012 elections. We know that he's a Democrat. We know that he broke boundaries by becoming the first African-American president. And for the most part, we should know where he stands on the primary issues. But we live in a media-driven world that more often than not looks for a headline instead of a hard line. So I'm going to let you know the facts, taken from direct quotes of Barack Obama. Where does he stand on the big issues? For now, abortion. Specifically, should it be legal in the United States? Obama says he believes in protecting this constitutional right and remains committed to policies, initiatives, and programs that help prevent unintended pregnancies, support pregnant women and mothers, and encourage healthy relationships and promote adoption. So, he believes it should be legal. What about the death penalty remaining a legal option in America? Well, he believes that that too should be legal. When it comes to marijuana being used for medicinal purposes, Obama is an advocate. He also recently affirmed that he thinks same-sex couples should be able to get married. So that would lead one to believe that he is pro-gay marriage being a legal option. When it comes to the economy, Obama is pro the U.S. government bailing out private U.S. financial groups like AIG, Bank of America, Citigroup, etc. He also believes that the U.S. should have bailed out General Motors and Chrysler. And in order to prevent default, he was pro-Congress increasing the debt limit on August 2011. He, however, doesn't believe that outsourcing jobs to other countries is good for America, saying that we need to create and bring jobs back to our country. If we're talking about economy, then we have to include taxes. When it comes to raising taxes and taxing America's wealthiest 1%, he is pro on both platforms, believing that as a nation we can live within our means and still prosper, but that millionaires and billionaires need to pay their fair share, saying that it's wrong in the United States of America that a teacher or a nurse or construction worker that maybe earns $50,000 a year should pay a higher tax rate than somebody raking in $50 million a year. He has stated that he was opposed to the Iraq War, but has recently said he believes the dedication, bravery, and courage of our troops has made America a safer place. And perhaps his biggest stance has been on healthcare. With Obamacare now in full swing, he is firm on his continuous belief that all Americans have the right to basic healthcare, wanting to create safety and security for those that have it and lower cost and offer availability to all regardless of current health or pre-existing conditions. So there are some of the main stances. Remember again that through this election there will be flip-flopping, there will be sweet-talking, and games will be played. But what matters the most is what changes you want to see in your future, and who will most likely implement those changes.
Nation, next up we have for the first time an audience Q&A. Some of you are here right now. I tweeted it out around 11 p.m. last night. You guys showed up, and we're going to have you step up to Meg and ask us directly what's on your mind.
Hello, I'm here with Joseph Ferguson, a 19-year-old from Charlotte, North Carolina. Joseph, what's your question?
My question is, since we were talking about Mitt Romney's domestic policies, is there anything about his foreign policy that strikes you or that's like even relevant to this election?
Say it again. We couldn't hear you for a second. Sorry.
His foreign policy, Mitt Romney's foreign policy. Is there anything that strikes you about it?
Well, I think the big thing is that there haven't been a lot of specifics, even in his speeches. It was something that was brought up that I think it was, who is it? It was Tammy Duckworth who said that he has not said Afghanistan. Ryan has. Ryan's mentioned it.
And Condoleezza Rice, I think, she mentions every country.
She mentions
every country. She just goes down the list, and she's like, bomb them, bomb them, bomb them. But yeah, it's one of those issues that like it gets kind of shoved under the rug, just like every other social issue, especially with the Republicans, where it's kind of like, let's just keep talking about the economy and only the economy because, especially with Paul Ryan, that's a strong suit. He's a number cruncher, so it's what he's going to focus on.
And there's really no win for either politician right now.
Yeah.
All right, I'm here with Patrick Bogans, who's also 19 from Charlotte. Patrick, what's your question?
I was wondering, do you think that there's anything that Michelle Obama didn't touch on that you would really have liked her to, or did she really just hit it home?
There's Meg. Meg, spoiler alert, she hit it home. No, I think she definitely hit it home. I would have loved for her to go into the juicy stuff that everybody wants to see.
What's the juicy stuff?
Like all the controversial stuff. I want to see somebody get up there and just go down the list and be like, all right, so about this whole him not being born in America, like something just to spice it up. As far as what she did, though, I can't say I'm disappointed. Like it's her job as the first lady to say that, and she did a great job.
Yeah, well, I like that it's like go down the list.
Yeah.
I thought you meant like, okay, so what about abortion?
Yeah.
How we feel?
Every hot button
How
issue.
do we feel? I think that she did that. It's that same job, just to give you that personal side of the president that we might have lost through 4 years.
Yeah.
Through 4 years of so much excitement, so much build-up, and 4 years later, it's the day after.
Yeah.
And it's like maybe I'm not excited. Maybe I feel a little guilty, a little dirty. and she's there to remind you that, hey,
It's okay.
it's okay,
You
in
still
my
love 'em.
opinion. But yeah, I think she did a great job. There was nothing really I think she should have added.
Yeah.
But then we have another question, Meg.
All right, Kevin McCleary, also 19, the 19-year-olds in the house. Well, what? Has a question. Kevin, what's your question?
Since Gary Johnson, as the Libertarian candidate, he's going to be on every ballot in all 50 states, shouldn't he be included in the presidential debates?
100%.
Yeah, totally. That'd be awesome.
Well, I mean, but that's also, I mean, over the past 2 weeks, we've been like, oh, we're kind of almost. Are we
Yeah.
libertarians?
I don't want to say it.
You don't want to say
the
it.
word.
I feel like
maybe libertarian. I'm mostly because I'm libertarian. Like like everyone says, it's fiscally conservative and socially liberal. I would say I'm like fiscally conservative, socially moderate.
Right.
But for the most part, yeah, I definitely lean toward libertarians. I think the problem is that if you had him in some sort of a debate, it would basically be like him in the middle going, "You're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong." And I think as much as like, especially the younger generation wants to see something like that, the majority of America just wants to see how good their guy's going to do. And for the majority of America, their good guy is either Barack Obama or Mitt Romney.
Yeah, and I think the big thing would be with Gary Johnson being on those ballots, if you want to vote for him, if you want to, it's something we're echoing from week one, if you want to try and prove a point, then 100% vote for him.
Yeah, totally.
Just straight up vote for him. And it is wrong that it's the two-party system thing that we were talking about that we hate, that he doesn't get to have a voice, and that people in both parties, the both main parties right now, actively try and crush.
Right.
And it's fucked.
So I asked, last week I talked to, and I talked earlier yesterday about, or to the president of the Young Democrats of America. Last week I spoke briefly with the president of the Young Republicans of America, but he was from Chicago, and I was asking about that, because I was like, I'm kind of more libertarian. I was like, but, what do you say to people who are more libertarian, they don't really want to identify with the Republican Party? And he's like, look, if you agree with 10% of the platform or 100% of the platform, you're welcome. And I kind of think that probably applies with the Democrats, too. So, yeah, I think it's interesting. They're kind of like, they have that Big Tent philosophy.
I think it's a hope for a Big Tent philosophy, but I think a lot of it comes down to the social issues and can you get elected?
Mm-hmm.
That's just me. But I think we have one last question from Meg.
All right, I'm with Mike Ross, who is 30, and he has a question. Mike, what's your question?
Not super political, but I know we have our resident Democrat here with you, Meg, and I'm just curious if anybody on either behind the scenes at Philly D or on SourceFed will actually come out and say, you know what, yeah, I'm for the other side. Anybody who's read out there?
I don't know if you've watched any of the other shows, but I'm pretty sure they've both come out and said, I'm for the other side, sort of.
Only sort of, but it's been like a minor endorsement.
Anybody pro-Romney over there?
I would say that I am leaning Romney, but no, I will not come out and say that that's a full endorsement. I can't fully endorse somebody that I don't fully agree with.
I love that that's the new coming out of the closet.
Yeah, totally. It is. That's how I feel. It's like I'll be shunned by everybody.
Yeah, and then everyone else. Like the reason that I brought these guys, they were the only ones that would be like, yeah, I'll kind of let you know what I think, because it's a very, it's the easiest way to get someone to dislike you for the most idiotic reason. You're like, you think different? I'm offended.
But did you say trickle down? You're evil. Okay, I'm sorry.
What is trickle down? Yeah. But guys, thank you for coming. Thank you for talking to. This is the most docile. Can I get a woo? Yes. Yeah. In their defense, we have not fed them.
You're like, can I get a woo?
But next up, Elliott went out on his own in the big scary world of Democrats. Ooh.
Oh man.
Elliott, how was your day?
My day was fantastic. So yeah, today I tried to have like the whole try to convince me to be a Democrat day. It started yesterday because I talked, like I said earlier, with the president of the Young Democrats of America, whose name was Rod Snyder, which is a very hard name to remember. But today I ran around downtown Charlotte and I tried to find as many people as possible to convince me why I should vote for Barack Obama while I was high on caffeine. Hey, how's it going? So last night I couldn't sleep, so I took 2 melatonin tablets, but they didn't really work, so I just laid there and like my body went into comatose and I was really hyper and my brain was firing, and then I fell asleep at 3 a.m. and then I slept in, but I didn't really sleep in, and then I woke up and I had a big cup of coffee and a chocolate chip muffin. Bottom line, I'm really wired right now. So there's like one more day left of the convention, and I'm going to get as many people as possible to tell me why I should vote for Barack Obama. Bye! Excuse me. Do you guys think you could take 30 seconds and explain to me why I should vote for Barack Obama instead of Mitt Romney?
Osama bin Laden is dead. GM is alive.
He's great at basketball.
He's great at basketball.
From what I've heard.
No, I can't. I'm sorry.
No.
No. Mitt Romney has promised to only serve his people, and that's the 1%. And Barack Obama genuinely cares about all of us. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Matthews, can you explain why I should vote for Obama?
I don't know who you are yet. I don't
okay, I don't know who I am either.
I am definitely, absolutely not voting for Barack Obama or Mitt Romney.
What a twist. Okay, who are you voting for?
Vermin Supreme.
They're both communist, and Barack's wife just left him.
That's sad.
Well, Barack Obama is working for us. Mitt Romney seems to be working for the millionaires and billionaires.
Okay, and do you travel everywhere by Segway?
This is my first time on a Segway.
You're doing fantastic. Do you think you could take 30 seconds and explain to me why because I'm trying to figure out who to vote for?
And we believe in Obama.
Okay.
We believe in grace and love.
Grace and love is good.
Hey, in Christmas time, we always got something good for the church.
You're asking the wrong woman. I'm from England.
The police officers are pro-life. The police officers.
I like life. Oh, excuse me. Could you take 30 seconds and explain to me why I should vote for Barack Obama instead of Mitt Romney?
Okay, Barack Obama is pro-choice, so he agrees that women should have the right to choose what they want to do.
Running the country is not like running a business. It's like running a family. There are so many things that happen in a family. It's not just all about a bottom line or net profit statement. We got to think of the country long term. It's not about thinking about the next quarter or how we're going to fix this problem right away. It's thinking about what we're doing for our future generations, for our kids, for everybody in the future. As in a family, you got all kinds of issues that happen. I mean, you got to borrow money sometimes.
That's the single best answer.
All right, good.
Wow, that was good. That was actually, I said it in the video. And I'm saying again, that was the best answer I got out of everybody. But as far as people convincing me, that guy said that Mitt Romney treats America like a business when it should be treated like a family. So those are the kinds of statements that whether I agree with them or not, they actually make me think. And the reason for that is because it's a philosophy. And I think philosophies are something that you subscribe to, and they're not something that you can argue with statistics. And I feel like that's a lot of what happens here. So people like to say, you can't argue with history. I think that's a bunch of bullcrap, because if you, for example, were to think about the last person that you broke up with, I would guarantee that something totally different happened depending on if you explain it or if your evil ex explains it. And then if your evil ex stops being evil and you guys get back together, then it'll all change again. So I don't believe that history is stagnant. So when people start saying like, oh, this happened back in 1996 and blah, 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 it's not stagnant. Like Phil said last night, it's all about perception. So when someone starts talking about why they shouldn't vote for Obama or Romney, and they say something like, Romney is waging a war on women, or Barack Obama wasn't born in America, my eyes glaze over and I start thinking about sitcoms, which is what I'm thinking about 99% of the time. The philosophy that I use to approach politics goes both ways. So I don't think either person is wonderful. I think one is probably better than the other. But on the other hand, I don't think that either person is evil. So I understand why I lean right. I understand why Meg leans left. And most of all, I understand why so many people don't give a crap about politics. It's not just that it can be boring, which it can be a lot, and conniving and untrue and really just convoluted. It's also that it's exhausting, which is why I firmly support an 8-year term from now on, just to give me more time to pretend people aren't crazy. Now, the long-term, short-term thing that this guy talked about, when he's talked about how Mitt Romney is only fixing short-term problems, I totally agree with that. Absolutely. Like 100%. I think that's a problem within the Republican Party, especially when it comes to the environment. But this idea of Romney treating America like a business, I don't necessarily agree with. I think Romney wants to treat the government like a business. And it's a business that is funded with my money, and it's also a failing business. So there's the government, and then there's America. And I don't believe that the government is America. So if there's a problem with America, I think America should fix it, not the freaking government. Taxes, which are those things that fund the billions of things that Democrats want to fund, aren't like a sign of patriotism. I believe that they are a necessary evil. So, for example, to use an analogy and make it personal, because Phil loves when I make it personal, it's like when people start attacking religion or the church. It's the same sort of situation, because when I look at a religion, like Christianity, I don't necessarily see God. I see an entity that's made up of flawed people who are trying to do the right thing, and that's exactly how I see the government. So it's no more or no less than that. So America might be a family, which is wonderful, but I do think the government can kind of be treated like a business, except that their money is given to them by us. So therefore, I want the best freaking businessman I can get in the White House. I don't need a dad, I don't need a dad. I want a CEO, and I don't want a basketball player, even though if they can't play basketball, that'd be fantastic. I want an economist who can look at the big and small picture and then fix things accordingly. So that being said, I actually did get pushed a little bit to the left today, but here's why. So I'm young. And I'm new to politics, and I think the successes and failures of past politicians changes with who you ask. And so what I see is, so far I've seen 8 years of the Republican Party, and I've only seen 4 years of the Democratic Party. So absolutely, a huge part of me wants to see what would happen if Obama was in the office for the next 4 years, so that when it's all said and done, I can look back, and based on what I've seen, I can decide where I stand. And that's basically what all of this boils down to. I am young. I wish I could pretend that I know everything, but I don't know everything at all. In fact, I know so little. So yeah, I'm just trying to listen to people. And one guy who is arguably the coolest guy I've met since I've been here in Charlotte is the president of the Young Democrats of America. So here's my interview with Rod Snyder. Hey guys, Elliott here with Rod Snyder, president of the Young Democrats of America. Rod, how's your day going?
It's going great so far.
Wonderful. So as the president of the Young Democrats of America, what do you do on a day-to-day basis for them?
Sure. We have 200,000 members across the country in all 50 states, and we're working every day to basically mobilize young people to get involved in the Democratic Party, elect Democrats. We also do a lot of trainings so young people can learn how to run for office themselves, and we also work on some issues that young people care about, make sure Congress is paying attention to us.
So as far as when it comes to young people, a lot of them aren't very interested in politics. How do you go about getting them as interested as possible in all of this stuff?
Sure. Well, I mean, it's talking about, how these things actually affect us on a daily basis, right? So if we don't have grants or loans for people to be able to afford college, what does that mean? It means probably the difference between whether we'll actually attend or not. If you talk about access to like health insurance, or even like the big debate about contraception earlier this year, whether or not young women can get contraception, these are like real life things. So just kind of like leveling with people and say these decisions make an impact in your lives.
Very cool. How big of a role do you think social issues are playing in all of this versus economic issues?
Economic issues are definitely the biggest issue this year. I mean, the economy is huge. People want to be able to find a job, right? So that's what most people are talking about. But for young people, you can't just simply ignore the social issues. Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan kind of wanted to skirt around those things, but you can't ignore the fact that, Paul Ryan actually voted against equal pay for women a couple years ago. That's sort of a social issue. You can't sort of ignore that. Most young people support gay marriage or at least some form of LGBT rights. The repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell was really important for young people a couple years ago. Paul Ryan voted against that. Mitt Romney, did not want to see the repeal. Young people care about equality, and these issues are not just going to go away, and I think it really benefits the Democrats.
Very cool. So as far as a common conversation that we've been having for the past week and a half is all about the two-party system. And I know, I, in certain areas, especially socially, lean more moderate to left, and then fiscally sometimes I go right. What do you say to people who, they don't necessarily want to identify themselves as a Democrat or a Republican for that matter?
I mean, the most important thing is that young people get involved in the process. Whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, or an independent, you have to be involved. Otherwise, you're completely on the sidelines and you're not part of this conversation at all.
So is there anything specifically that you would like to say to a young YouTube audience who's maybe kind of intimidated by all of this stuff?
Yeah, first of all, the fact that you're tuning in to this means you care. So just make sure that translates to actually getting out and registering to vote and voting. There's 15 million new young people who just became eligible to vote since the last election. You guys actually could make the difference on November 6th, so please get out and vote.
Yeah, so that was Rod Snyder, and he was a wonderful human being. He also, fun fact, is a singer-songwriter and was a semifinalist on Season 4 of American Idol. So there you go.
Why do you know that?
Oh, American Idol.
I Googled him. I was like, nothing more American than American Idol.
Yeah. Well, we had Taylor Hicks at the RNC, so it's American Idol.
Exactly.
All up in
it balances. No, so yeah, as a whole, I think he did a good job. He did kind of throw out the whole, Ryan hates women thing, which, I don't entirely think is based in fact. But for the most part, he brought up some really good points, which is that it doesn't matter what side you fall on. The most important thing is that you get involved.
Yeah, because otherwise you are on the sidelines. And I definitely dug that. What I want to jump back to was 6 minutes ago was that video of people on the street. And just the guy that opened it felt like polar opposites from the beginning to end. Guy in the beginning just repeats a Biden soundbite as his reasoning.
And he didn't give credit to Biden at all. I was like,
he's like, that was me.
Yeah.
No, I'm sure everyone knows. But the Bin Laden dead, GM alive, and I think I've been seeing it more with these speeches, repetition. I mean, obviously it works. That thing's been stuck in my head. But then you have the complete polar opposite with the last guy, who is amazing. And that is really interesting what you're talking about, the family versus a business.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, when you think of a business, right, and you think pure economy, and then you lose, I think, the human part, the human element, which is a little scary.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know.
I think that's Republicans' biggest problem is they treat it so much like a business that they forget that you have to actually, these are your fellow Americans that you're saying,
right?
That you're dictating what they can and can't do. Which I mean.
No, I agree with that. When you say you don't believe Romney's war on women or Paul Ryan's war on women, I mean, I just immediately forcible rape is stuck in my head because he authored a bill that said if your rape wasn't forcible enough, you don't get to have an abortion if you want one. If you become pregnant via a rape, you know what I mean? That's, to me, that's I don't know if I would call that a war on women. That's certainly a sensationalist way to think about it.
Right.
But I just think that, like you're saying, they lose the human element a lot in really surprising and scary ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you do need that nice little balance, and also with the idea of a war on women or a war on drugs. It is definitely, it's interesting because when you say war on women, obviously you instantly feel attacked, most likely.
Yeah.
Sure. And I think it is a stance that comes from most likely a religious background of pro-life, right?
Oh,
so there is still, I
definitely.
think, emotion. I don't agree with it. That's my personal opinion, but I don't know. I don't know.
I think I'm very staunchly, I wouldn't say staunchly, I am very pro-life.
Yes.
So when people are like, it's a war on women because he's pro-life, I'm like, okay, I can't totally get behind that. But then when people start talking about the Lilly Ledbetter thing, then I'm like, okay, yeah, he hates women. Okay, you're right, totally.
It's not that he hates women, he's just legislating against
sure,
their
but then
best interests.
I was looking up stuff about this Lilly Ledbetter thing, and again, I'm new to all this, but my understanding of it is that it does make it very easy for people just to sue, and 70 years later, somebody can be like, oh, this happened 70 years ago, I still want to sue for it, and the people that were responsible for it are gone, you can't ask them, there's no evidence, and it's just kind of it puts employers in a bad position. I'm not saying I'm anti-Lilly Ledbetter, I'm just saying I think maybe the motivations for voting against it weren't based in sexism.
Yeah, I can agree with that, but like Lilly Ledbetter herself said last night, 10 years later, she found out she wasn't being paid the same, and the fact that employers can run out this 6-month statute of limitations and then tell you oh, by the way, Elliott's making twice what you're making for the same amount of work. I mean, that's infuriating. The fact that you're not, and in a lot of workplaces, you're fired for talking about how much you make. I mean, it just, I see both sides of it. I see that 7 years later you shouldn't be able to go back, but you also 10 years later haven't been making the same. You should have some legal recourse.
Yeah.
To not be discriminated against.
It's that weird balance because I know as an employer, I will not even be in a room by myself with one other employee because there's so many different ways you can be sued. So I definitely get the idea of it's scary to employers. It's another reason.
When you were rubbing my back yesterday, and I was like,
That's
still.
That's
Stefan.
That wasn't me. Let's be honest. If we're gonna just throw out things,
he's really good. He's good at it.
I know. But, Nation, earlier we were talking about Tammy Duckworth, a celebrated Army veteran who's running for Congress. Meg Turney has a piece on veteran affairs that she'd like to get into. Meg, what is that like?
So I know yesterday we had a lot of fun with bikinis and high fives, but today we really want to talk about something important, which is Veterans Affairs. Now, veterans issues hit really close to home for me. My father retired as a senior master sergeant after 21 years in the Air Force. 2 of my grandfathers were Marines, 1 was in the Army Corps of Engineers, and my brother was in the Navy. Between the 5 of them, they served in every major conflict, save for the most recent Iraq War since World War II. And I actually have relatives that go all the way back to the Civil War. We're a military family, to say the least. So I've heard tales of victory and hardship, but most notably, I've heard the elongated, heavy silences that come when a question hits too close to home and a painful memory is brought to the surface. Although their experiences may be different, they're all veterans. And in this most recent war, there are 2.4 million veterans who will also return home and try to relay their experiences to family members. That's 2.4 million people who will sigh and shake their heads knowingly when words fail them. And they need our help. Soldier suicide rate in this country is at an all-time high. In July, we lost 38 soldiers in just 31 days. This morning, I had the privilege of speaking with Tom Tarantino, the Chief Policy Officer for Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America, and a veteran himself. Here's what he had to say. Hey guys, I'm here with Tom Tarantino, the Chief Policy Officer of the Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So can you tell me a little bit about the state of Veterans Affairs?
Well, it's a lot better than it used to be. Part of that is because we are a nation at war, and we have a lot of veterans coming home, and so we have to pay attention to the issues that, frankly, this country has ignored for the last 30 or 40 years. Most people don't understand mental health injuries, and that's not just the military, that's the country. We have a severe stigma when it comes to seeking mental health care. When I talk to soldiers, I say, look, if you got shot, you're not going to walk around with a bullet hole in your chest, right? You're going to go to a medic, you're going to get the bullet taken out, you're going to get sewn up, you're going to get recovered, and you're going to get back in the fight. It's the same for a mental health injury. And so until we change that culture and that mindset, we're going to be behind the curve. Two, there's actually a serious cultural difference, too. Back in World War II, frankly, a lot of people in World War II, Vietnam, Korea, they died from a lot of the injuries that we are surviving in Iraq and Afghanistan. Service members are coming back with injuries that we've never seen before because in previous wars they wouldn't have survived. So that's a huge factor. Also, when you came home from World War II, you spent 3 weeks, 4 weeks on a ship with all your buddies kind of decompressing. In this war, you can go from the battlefield to your front door in 36 hours. And that's real. And that's a serious change. We don't have that adjustment buffer. And so this is something that we're going to have to relearn.
So what's one thing that a civilian like myself can do to help Veterans Affairs?
Well, first thing, go to iava.org, and you can learn about the issues that this generation is facing. The best thing you can do is get informed. We're here at the DNC, and we were in Tampa at the RNC last week because we don't think that our leaders are paying enough attention to these issues, and we're asking them to look at 5 things, and you can look at these on the website. We need to defend the new GI Bill from fraud, waste, and abuse by for-profit schools. We need to make sure that veterans come home and they find jobs. We need to make sure that the suicide rate goes down. We had the largest rate of suicide last month ever recorded. We have to make sure that we have a 21st century VA. We have to make sure that women veterans have adequate health care, have good health care, at least on par with their male peers.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today. It was really great to have you. Now, as I said, and as you heard Tom say as well, the situation is dire, but there's so much we as civilians can do. Of course, I encourage you to check out the IAVA website at iava.org. Get educated on what issues are most pressing for our veterans and encourage your local politicians to take action. I'd also like to mention HeroBracelets.org. Aside from donating to over a dozen military support organizations, Hero Bracelet does something really special. They get people talking. Now, I've worn a Hero Bracelet with Master Sergeant Kelly L. Hornbeck's name on it almost every single day for the last 8 years. Now, I didn't know Mr. Hornbeck, but I've had the opportunity to share his story countless times over those years, a privilege that puts a face and a human story to those going overseas. It's so easy nowadays to forget that we are a nation at war and to pretend that when a soldier makes it home that the battle is over, that everything's okay now. But that's just not the case. Our men and women in uniform risk everything for us, so it's imperative that we do our part to make sure that we're taking care of them.
That is a heavy topic.
Sorry, guys.
I don't have that much. I don't think I have family in the military at all. How is it when they do come back?
So I've thankfully never had a family member overseas since I've been alive. And my dad served. He got into the Air Force when he was 17. He told his dad, sign the papers or I'm going to sign them myself the day I turn 18. Without your blessing, and went straight overseas and served in Vietnam, and I had a grandfather in Korea and a great uncle in Korea. So I mean, hearing their stories, I mean, there's such a sense of pride for what they've done and where they've been, but there's also just this sadness that comes along with it that they can't. And they don't want to have you understand what it's like, that they fought so that you don't have to understand how crazy it is overseas and that the sacrifices that they've had to make. And I agree with Tom. We talked a lot about this idea of masculinity and that people and soldiers are too masculine to get help for mental health issues. And I just, it's sad because to think that we lost 38 soldiers in 31 days in July is terrifying. It's just those are the people that we need. We need those people, and they've done so much for us, and to think that we're failing them is heartbreaking.
Right. Yeah, I mean, those are the numbers that have really been coming out in the past 2 months, both suicide rates but also friendly fire deaths. And it is scary to think that they are coming back, especially when that is one thing, a military or a budget increase for the military and being a little more aggressive. It is something scary, especially when we don't have a placeholder for when they do come back.
No, absolutely. Tom talked a lot about being able to make sure that they get jobs and to be trained to talk about themselves to potential employers. I just think that, we're having an influx of veterans, and Tom talked a lot about, I keep going back to what he said, but he talked a lot about getting back, and the most frustrating thing being people at Starbucks being like, oh, my order's wrong, and this sucks, and my day is over, and just like their perspective on life is so infuriating to a soldier who's been fighting for his life for 16 months overseas. Like, it's just so hard to come back and to adjust to a nation that, although we're at war, we don't act like we're at war. We're not really thinking about our veterans, and we're not really keeping them in our thoughts, and we're not thinking when they come back that, like, we think that everything's okay. Like, you're home, you made it home, everything's fine. There's not this reverb of how crazy it is over there and how hard it is to come home.
Right. I mean, America is essentially Disneyland. It's a day off while the world goes on. I mean, it's been described. Elliot, I don't know if you have anything to add to it.
No, I mean, I have family that has served and then family that still does. And, I 1,000% agree. And I think it's kind of like you hear the stories back, like, in Vietnam, people would come back and the soldiers would be spit on and all that. And, like, it's all these horrible stories. And I feel like maybe we've come a long way since then.
Sure.
But there's still this kind of like, okay, welcome back. Don't talk about that anymore. Keep that to yourself. That's ugly. We don't really want to think about that. We have other things to worry about. So I think there's definitely, and I think that's a lot of that is on us, and I think that a lot of that is on our society to come together and sort of esteem people that should be esteemed. I don't care what anybody's opinions are. If you risk your life for America, you pretty much win at everything.
No,
there's no you are an amazing human being immediately by default.
I think just one small, it's kind of a semi-hard question. When we talk about the programs and things that we've talked about Democrats being like, let's build this, and then there's not money for it. Is it just easier to be like, oh yeah, we should take care of them, but then back to the question you've asked on every single topic, where's the money?
Sure, yeah.
Where does that money come from? Does it come from our military spending from overseas? Where does it come?
That's cool. It's an interesting topic because that's where you see the line of bureaucracy and people very directly meeting.
Right.
It's not something you can argue same way you can argue other topics, especially when it comes to government growth and increasing the size of government. These are people that have fought for our people and for us, and so I don't care where the money comes from, but I do think it's one of those things where whatever it takes, they are priority one as far as that goes.
I agree. I just think that the biggest thing that I can impart upon people is you don't have to support the conflict they're in or the politics behind the conflict, but you do have to support our troops.
I'm with you on that, 100%. That dark topic does bring us, though, to the Nation Speaks. We've been pulling your tweets all night. We asked you the question of the day today, which was, what did you think of the speeches last night, whether you saw them before or when we did feature them? And Elliot, I think you are going to kick us off with the first tweet.
Okie dokie. Crazy Kitten 88 says, the First Lady made one hell of a speech, made me cheer and cry at the same time. Hashtag Michelle Obama, hashtag PDS Live. Totally 100% agree.
No, it was amazing. It was amazing. Nothing to add.
It's on the subject of speakers. Lee Leber said, watching Cal Penn speak, it's really cool and touching to see true passion for politics again. I liked his speech. I wanted to say it's so cheesy, hashtag sexy face or whatever, but the Obama administration really harnessed social media in its infancy in 2008, and I think that that's going to be really a big thing for them, and it was at the top of the trends last night.
Do you think that it ever is playing the cool card too much?
It can border on that for sure, but I just think that it's so important for them to get the youth vote out and to get the youth of this country excited about politics that I think doing that, and actually the repetition you were talking about earlier, put it in sound bites that they can tweet, is very important to their campaign.
Yeah, and I think if Mitt Romney had a cool card, he'd play it to no end. Unfortunately, he doesn't at all. So moving on, Sarah L1234 says, foreign policy, talk about the change in platform regarding Jerusalem as Israel's capital and Wexler's speech.
Everything.
The politicians should be talking about that, or we should be talking about it?
I don't know. I know that things have been crazy. I know that there was a recent story that the United States contacted Iran and was like, "Hey, I know that there's stuff happening, but if they attack, Can you not shoot our bases? Like, it's getting crazy. Like, story after story. But once again, I think it comes down to, as far as talking about international, when the two candidates are pit against each other, there is no winner. There's no, like, I'm going to say this because you're just going to be crushed. Just get crushed by someone that you are hoping will vote for you. I think people do need to talk about it, but I imagine they're going to stay away from it.
I think that they're going to stay away from it for the conferences, and then I think for the debates, that's going to be a huge issue because they stand so far apart from one another on what they think we should do and where we should be, where we should be spending our money. I think that in the debates, we're going to see a lot of that.
And moving on, Dubstep Key says, why don't people ever cover the real problems of society? Money.
We haven't mentioned economy.
Yeah.
No, I think Snyder said it. Almost everyone that we've interviewed, that guy. That one guy. Money. It's the really big thing, and it's something that the Republicans are going to push and push and push, and the Democrats are going to push the, hey, you don't have any. And Romney, he's totally going to raise taxes on you, even though he says that he's not. And a lot of people still quote the the Ryan tax plan, which was from last year. And whenever they talk about it, it's still that last year's plan. I don't know the numbers of the new one, but I imagine with so much flack that it's not anywhere near the same thing.
Okay, and I'm just going to blow through some of these. Wordcraftian says, Michelle Obama's speech was like a glass of fresh water after Ann Romney's. It did exactly what it was designed to do. I agree. It was
your thirst.
It quenched your thirst for Michelle Obama. Dixon Strategy says, Newark Mayor Cory Booker says it's patriotic to pay your fair share. Implies you are unpatriotic to oppose runaway government spending at Tea Party Nation.
Ooh.
I can open that can.
But where's #America? Now your point is not valid.
I liked Randy JL13's tweet. I'm a strong Democrat, but it sucks that Quinn's speech was factually inaccurate. It makes the party itself look weak, which is what I absolutely agree.
But the question is, how many people realize that it's factually inaccurate?
That is exactly what I said about the RNC speeches that were factually inaccurate. I said they do that on purpose because you hear something and it sticks in your brain and you don't go check. And I hate that the Democrats did the exact same thing because it is shitty on all accounts, and I think it is shitty when the Democrats do it, and I think it's shitty when
for a week when Ryan was getting bashed for his economic plan, I was spouting off about it for about like 3-4 days, and then I was like, oh wait, okay, no, never mind, I'm an idiot.
And somebody that I totally agree with, H. Ann Caprio, says, at Philly D, I wasn't impressed by the speeches. It was the same smoke and hot air as always. I would 75% agree with that. The only exception is Michelle Obama, who's just adorable.
Oh, adorable. Split Sniper 7 says, I don't understand how we, in parentheses, the young people, can, quote, make a difference if our system is an electoral college, which is something I'd love to discuss.
The Electoral College is very stupid. It should 100% be a popular vote.
Absolutely.
Especially
Popular vote. Popular votes all around.
No, especially with, even Snyder saying, 15 million young people now eligible to vote. And it does, like, that's a huge number. You could just turn an entire election just based on new people. It does make you feel weak because it's like, we have 15 million, kinda.
Well, yeah, there were 8, I think it was 8.5, if I remember off the top of my head from my piece last week, 8.5 million votes was the difference between Obama and McCain, and 81 million didn't vote. I mean, it's just, I completely understand when people say, like, I live in a traditionally red state, I feel like I'm throwing my vote away. Like, why are we alienating people who want to participate in politics by doing this stupid electoral college that is completely antiquated?
And last but not least, Danny Buckle says, a government as a... I just exited out of it. He says...
I will find it.
A government.
It's on the screen.
Wonderful. It's on the screen.
As a business focuses.
A government as a business focuses on the bottom line for profit. A government as a family focuses on bottom line for the next generation. I could probably agree with that. The only thing I would submit is that if you are a family and you are broke, you are worrying about tomorrow's dinner, not about your next generation.
No, I agree, and I think that as we find these hardline policies, and as you break it down, like Republicans run it like a business and Democrats run it like a family, I find myself more and more saying, like, clearly there needs to be a harmony in the middle.
Yeah.
We need to be able to compromise because you can't run a government just like a family and you can't run a government just like a business. There has to be a middle ground.
Wholly agreed.
Libertarians. Oh, look at you guys.
It's turning like one big endorsement for the Libertarian Party.
I know.
But guys, that is all we have for The Nation Speaks. But do not feel like you need to stop tweeting. tweet us tonight. We might start tomorrow's show with your questions, your reactions to everything. Just make sure you use the hashtag PDSLive and let us know what is on your mind. But that is it for tonight. We have one more night to go, and that'll be it for our convention coverage. Tomorrow night we will be live right after President Obama, so not before like we have been for the speeches, but afterwards. And you can find us streaming both on my youtube.com/SXEPhil channel, the SourceFed channel, or youtube.com/politics. But before we go, I want to thank once again Meg Turney and Elliott Morgan for joining me.
Thank you.
I just spilled my water all over the floor.
I stepped in water on the way in here. I knew you were responsible.
You guys have so much in common. I'm so glad we did
I woke up this morning.
I also drink water.
Oh man! But guys, I don't know what camera to look at. But as always, I'm Philip Defranco. You've just been filled in. I love your faces, and I will see you tomorrow. Woo! Thank you, guys.